Hey, folks. Thanks for joining me again today to Amazing People, Amazing Things. I'm your host, Chuck Tuck. I'm excited today to introduce to you Anne Wallen, and she is with MaternityWise.com or MaternityWise Institute. And yes, guys, I said maternity, but this is really, this is something that's going to be important, I think, in all facets of our life. We're going to talk about how remaining calm is going to really work no matter where you're at and no matter what you're doing. Does that make any sense? Well, if you watch and listen to the podcast, it will make sense. We're also going to talk about the role of a doula, and Anna's going to explain to us what the Institute can do for you if you are interested in becoming a doula or a support person for somebody that is going through pregnancy. And again, this doesn't matter if you're a first-time parent. If you're a second time, maybe you're not even a parent, maybe you don't even have a significant other, you're not going to go through childbirthing, or maybe you're a grandparent. But there's a lot of good and important information on this. You know what? Maybe you want to do this as a side hustle. So have a listen, watch the show, leave in the comments, let me know what you think. But before we get going, remember, if you're a pet owner, please be responsible and have your pets spayed or neutered. All right, let's get into it.
Welcome to Amazing People, Amazing Things with your host, Chuck Tuck.
This topic I am so not familiar with. So you're going to familiarize me, men out there and women, because I think when we initially met and kind of had a short conversation, I was saying that this is really an important topic. It's really very important. I do actually have a friend that has a aqua doula business, has been running it for nearly, I think, 30 years now. So you have an institute, or is it still considered an institute, or do we call it organization?
It's an institute. Yeah, it's an organization. We provide certification for doulas, childbirth educators, lactation support people. So in that, it's a school, but also we're an organization in that we love our members, support each other. It's one big happy family. So the kind of work we do really requires us to stay close knit, if that makes sense, because it's hard work. And sometimes you need people to be able to, discuss things with afterward who really understand.
And like I said, this is like new territory for me, about doula and your MaternityWise Institute. Now I understand it really began back in 2002, but then reorganization kind of thing, and you've got a real, I don't want to say real positive message going forward, but because you've always had that. But in 2017, um, just kind of like a whole new beginning, right?
Yeah, we kind of restructured at that time. I took over as director. And so before that, we were quite small. We really only offered labor and postpartum doula training. Since then, we've added breastfeeding, we've added childbirth education, and we've added a really unique program that only MaternityWise offers that's called the Epidoula program. Now, a lot of times
Okay.
when you hire a doula, or the thought of a doula might mean to some people where I'm only having like a natural birth, no medicine, no pain relievers, that sort of thing. But really, doulas are supposed to be there to support any kind of birth. And no matter how well intentioned you might be, you might even be having a home birth with a pool, with an aqua doula pool or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. And something might happen where you need to be transferred to the hospital, and you may then need an epidural to keep on a going. So the epidoula, the idea behind that is when someone gets an epidural, there's a lot of additional potential complications that can come along with that. And on top of that, then you need more interventions, which sometimes snowball into more complications, needing more interventions. And so you kind of get this, I don't know, like just you end up with a big pile of stuff that you didn't expect, right? And so being an
Right.
epidoula, you're learning how to navigate. What do you do when your client ends up with an epidural, and how do you help reduce those additional complications, and how do you reduce poor outcomes? And many doulas, when their clients get epidurals, they feel very helpless Sometimes they even feel a little hopeless, like, oh, well, now she's on a slippery slope to a cesarean or whatever. But it doesn't have to be that way. And really, when a woman gets an epidural, whether she wanted one or not, it it's a time to support her even to a greater degree. And if you don't have those skills, you don't feel confident in doing that. And so this program was meant to keep doulas engaged, to help them to continue to support and keep getting those better outcomes. So that's why we made
Uh,
that.
well, doulas, correct me if I'm wrong, doulas are not medical professionals. You're
Right.
there to uh, provide, gosh, like pre-support, during support, post-support,
Yeah.
all of that stuff, right? And
Yep.
and that comfort and support is really important. I would imagine. I've never experienced anyone going through a birth or anything like that, but I'm just thinking myself that it's got to be stressful, regardless of what you think. Your body is going through stress. You're mentally stressed, and sometimes you need somebody that's calm to help you through that. Is that, am I thinking of it the right way? Sort of.
Absolutely. Yeah, and in our society, the stories that get the attention are usually the bad ones. And so
Mhm.
when you're looking at, oh, I'm pregnant, what is this experience going to be like? A lot of times you hear all the horror stories, the this happened to me, and we hear about celebrities or different people who've passed away from childbirth related causes, or people who
Yeah.
came close to passing away. Serena Williams is one of those recently. And then we also look at that there's this racial disparity where women of color actually have a greater mortality rate by 4, 6, and in New York City, 9 times that of a
Wow.
white woman. So you have these scary things that you're hearing, right? And to have someone that can come alongside you and say, that doesn't have to happen to you. We will pay attention to you. We will listen to you. We will believe you. And we'll believe you when you're telling us your symptoms, and we'll help you get what you need to be taken care of. So, yes, doulas are meant for comfort, but
Mhm.
at least at MaternityWise, our philosophy is very much that we want our doulas to help moms to become, and dads. So the whole partner, whether it's mom, dad, mom, whatever the family dynamic is, that family feels supported and prepared. And so we do a lot of
Okay.
education ahead of time. And then we're there, for the big day. I call it the big day. And then afterward, because sometimes it's hard to get a hold of your doctor, you might need answers to something and you call up and you get this gatekeeper of a nurse that doesn't want to let you talk to the doctor, right? And their only answer for legal reasons, liability reasons is if you have this problem, you need to come in. Well, do they really need to come in? So having a doula that you can talk to immediately, because she's going to answer her phone when you call, and then
Hmm.
she can help you understand what's normal, what's not. And then as a parent, you're then empowered to make a decision for yourself about what you want to do. And so a doula's job really is to provide information, comfort, normalizing the process, and then that allows families to really make decisions for themselves. When they have that information, they could say, "Oh, this isn't such a big deal." Or they could say, "Yeah, we better go in." Right? And so it helps them to really kind of wade through myths and that sort of thing so you can understand the research, but from a lay person's point of view, right? So a
Okay.
doula's job is also to kind of interpret evidence-based information that's out there so that someone who's not familiar with medical terms or has never gone through this experience can have a guide that's going to help them to really understand what's going on.
That's a good word to use, a guide to help them
Mhm.
through stuff. Is there a shortage of doulas?
I feel like yes, there is. Sometimes women will get, and men, there's sometimes men that get trained as doulas as well, but
Mhm.
sometimes getting started can be discouraging. And so one of the things that we're trying to remedy, right, is helping doulas once they get trained to actually be successful in their field so that they don't quit, right? Because
Mm.
if you get started in something and you feel passionate about it, but it's not financially sustainable, you're going to go back to your 9 to 5. And you can't really be on call for births when you're, punching numbers at your 9 to 5 job. So one of our core beliefs is to help our students to get business training as well. So our institute provides not just the certification, but then real practical business startup, business growth education so that they can be successful and keep going and keep making that impact because that's our goal.
Okay. Now
Yeah.
with so wh- what is the who is the right person for this to be a doula? Is there a right person?
That's a really great question. When we do our trainings, a lot of times we have them, or in my classes, I like to have them take a personality test just so they
Mhm.
can kind of get to know themselves. And it's funny because most of the time, the majority of my classes are filled with people who are empaths. You know the difference between an empath and a regular person, right? The empath is
Mhm.
like more intuitive and they feel each other's emotions, they're more nurturing. Um, I think that when you feel called to this work, first of all, that's one indication that you're the right person. But also someone who can, handle pressure and still stay
Yeah.
calm and grounded, handle situations that might feel panicky. I always teach a technique. I call it the biggest mama in the room. And when I walk into a labor room, no matter what's going on in there, I just make my energy big and I make my energy very peaceful and grounding and anchored. And when everybody else is freaking out, I make sure my voice is soft and I use my doula voice and I take it lower and I talk a little slower. And it's just that comforting, okay, everything's gonna be okay. We don't have to freak out. And so having kind of that personality is a good, just having those traits already. But also, certainly, if you feel like this is something you want to do, you can learn those things. You can train your mind, you can train your voice, you can train your body, you can train your energy to be whatever you want it to be. And so in that way, no matter what kind of background you come from, if you feel like this is something you want to do, you probably should pursue it because it might mean that it's calling, it's knocking on your door and it's calling you. And you can't really run away from your calling. You might grow
No.
into your calling, but you can't really run away from it. It's going to keep coming after you until you do it.
This may be off, but I'm going to say that going through something like this, even if it's your calling and you're an empath, this would be helpful to that person who's going through your course um, for their daily life too. Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
so
it's funny because some of my friends, I just say that they're my life doulas because they support, give you feedback, maybe help you look at things from a different perspective. You know, everyone has friends like that, right?
yeah,
So,
and I honestly I can see this where this is your institute, you get certification, you become a doula, but if somebody's looking at this as I, side gig is a wrong thing to call it, but I'm just going to say a side gig. They can use this, it seems like, to help people in other facets of life as well. Because if you're learning how to remain calm, talk calm, listen to people, and to go through things systematically, logically, gosh, so many people need that more than just women, the maternity folks.
hmm yeah. Also, we have people like grandmas, first-time grandmas. Maybe their
Mm,
daughters are pregnant now and they want their mom to be there with them, but their mom can't be there with them because the hospital only allows so many visitors, maybe one visitor. So that's their significant other. But they want grandma there, so grandma gets trained as a doula so that then she has the piece of paper that allows her into the room. So people take this course for a lot of different reasons, but yeah, the life skills that you gain through our program, I feel like are good for you no matter what you're using them for. And many times people come into this with complementary roles already. They might be chiropractors, they might be massage therapists, they might be breathwork
mm,
people. They might already be life coaches or wellness coaches. And this is just one more layer that they add to their toolbox of things that they can do for other people. We have a guy up in Connecticut. He's a massage therapist, and his prenatal clients, he'd be working on people, they'd get pregnant. He decided, okay, well, I better get my prenatal massage license. So he did that. And then they would go through their birth and then they'd come to him afterward and they'd say, "Oh, I wish you had been with me during my labor." So then he said, "Oh, well, maybe I should get my doula, certification too, so that I can be with you during your labor." And so then he went ahead and did that. So it depends on where you're coming from and how you find the need for it. But there's a lot of
Mhm.
different varieties of routes that you can take once you have this education.
Wow. And let's make sure that the audience knows that they can go to maternitywise.com and
Correct.
there's a lot of information there. And you even have online courses. So this isn't something where, oh, I have to go someplace and get
Right.
training. You have these online courses as well. Now you have several different doula type of courses.
Yeah. Well, we have the labor doula. So that's
Hmm.
going to be people that support moms before birth, during birth, and then immediately after birth. We also have the postpartum doula. And a lot of times people mistake the word postpartum for postpartum depression, but postpartum actually just means the baby has left my body and I will be postpartum forever. So whether or not you develop a mental health disorder is a different story, but most people that have postpartum doulas do not, or they recover from postpartum mental health disorders because they have that support in their home, with baby, with them just for their mental health reasons, educating them on how to take care of their baby. Then we also have a lactation support and educator. It's kind of like a breastfeeding doula. It doesn't have that name, it's a little more fancy of a name, but it really is just a breastfeeding doula. And then we also have childbirth educators because many times our doulas then want to add to what they are offering their clients. And we also have a sleep solutions person certification so that you can go and help your clients get their babies to sleep sooner, faster,
Mm.
safer. Um, and on and on. We have so many different things that we're offering, and we're always adding to what we offer. We have HIPAA certifications, um, just anything maternal related, we're on it. So,
Wow. Um, and I'm going to ask a silly question, but is this really needed?
no silly questions. And yes, it's definitely needed. Traditionally, we would have sisters, aunts, moms, friends that would help us through labor. And let me back up to the origin of the word doula. Doula actually
Yeah.
refers to, it's a Greek word. It refers to the female servant in a Greek household. And she would typically help the woman of the household through pregnancy, birth, postpartum. She didn't necessarily catch the baby like a midwife, although sometimes they did. And so the word doula really is all about support and community support. And
Mm.
because we are so spread apart and we're so disconnected from our community, and then also because hospitals no longer really allow for that extra support, it's really important for people to have someone who can work kind of as a mediator, but also as that friend who has no, maybe a non-judgmental support person slash friend who's in the labor room with you, cares about you, wants your best, right? But isn't part of the machine that hospital care is. Hospital care has protocols and just different things that they must do to
Yeah.
keep mom safe and keep baby safe and to run their business, right? But a doula is outside of that conflict of interest. And so a doula's only interest is to make sure that the mom feels supported, the family feels, educated and empowered, and that they can then make decisions and be as relaxed as possible through this process. And that's a topic for a whole nother day on why relaxation in labor is so important. But it really is a key component because when you're in labor, you're very, very vulnerable, and you can't allow yourself to be vulnerable if you don't feel safe. And it's
Hmm.
hard to feel safe in a room with a bunch of strangers, And so having your partner, having a doula there who is just there just for you and is going to help guide you and help, translate the language and help you to understand what your options really are. It's so, so important. We teach something called BRAINS. Have you ever heard of BRAINS? It's an acronym for decision
Uh,
making.
no, I have not.
So B stands for benefits, R
Mhm.
is risks, A, alternatives, I is what's your intuition telling you, N is for not now or let's not do anything this moment. And then S, we tag on the end for space. Give you space so you don't feel under pressure to make a decision. And so doulas' jobs are really to help moms understand the whole story, not just what they're told by the staff, but maybe there are some alternatives that the staff didn't know or doesn't recognize could be an option for her. And so the doula's job is to help make sure mom really understands all of her options, what the benefits and risks are, what their alternatives are, and then that helps them to make better decisions for their own care and to be part of the team of their care making decisions rather than just being a passive, participant in, the hospital doing what they think is best. But sometimes that's not always what's on, we got to listen to the pregnant person's intuition because
Yeah.
they know better than anybody what they need.
You know, fascinating is probably the wrong word, but I'm going to say this is really fascinating stuff. And the one thing that I thought about when you're explaining really what the doula does and how the hospital experience is, possibly during birth, I'm thinking of it as this cold space, not empty, but a cold space because they have protocols. And
Hmm.
the doula is the sun, is the warm spot there
Hmm.
that's giving you warmth. So that's how I started envisioning it.
That's
Um, eh,
beautiful. That's true.
but this is far more interesting than I thought it would be. And maybe I need to go out there and experience this. I might knock on some doors. Hey, can I sit in on this?
Well, I'm sure you can find plenty of videos on YouTube.
Yeah, I bet I could. So I want to remind folks once again that MaternityWise is available for everybody to go to maternitywise.com.
Thank you.
Are there newsletters or things like that that you keep folks up to date on?
Yeah, when they first jump on our website, they'll have the opportunity to fill in a form with their name and email, and we'll send them, more information on the process of being a doula or becoming a doula. That will go out immediately. And
Mhm.
then they're on our newsletter. So when new opportunities for different learning events or different programs come out or sales, everybody likes a good sale. So
Yes.
that information comes out too. When we are doing things like this on a podcast, we provide them with that information as well. Lots of just different community interactions, and we also have a private Facebook group that is quite active that provides support to our members and then allows them even to when they're at a labor to do the play by play. Okay, I'm here. Mom's water broke. This is what's going on. I'm out of ideas. Anybody got an idea? Kind of a thing, So it's kind of a fun environment to just be supporting one another and then also just continue learning because I've been doing this for 30 plus years and every birth I go to is different every single one. And I learned something new at every single one of them. So,
I'm
yeah.
going to ask you the question that is universal.
Hmm.
How much time is this going to take?
To get
Is,
trained?
to get trained? And is
Okay.
it a self-paced course or is it laid out and you need to take these in this step and it's going to take you 6 weeks type of deal?
That's a great question. A lot of people do ask that. So, there's a couple different routes that you can take, right? And so, let's say you want to go to a workshop. If you go to an in-person workshop, most of our workshops are combo. So you're going to, because we really believe that we don't want to stop with just labor. Many times we're losing moms in the postpartum period. And so it's really important to keep working with families and being available and having the skills to answer knowledgeably, and give them the right answers and help them along after the baby's born. So our combo is labor, postpartum, lactation. Because when you're a labor doula, you really are expected by your clients, whether or not you've been trained, you're expected to have those answers anyway. And so the combo workshop, you would go for a full weekend. It's usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then you also have, in addition to that workshop, that's one of the assignments. You also have some reading, some papers to write. You work with 3 families, and then you submit for your credentials. We have the self-study program, which same thing, except your workshop, you're going to have a pre-recorded version so you can watch that
Hmm.
on your own time. Now, we just introduced something, and the first one's going to be held in Long Island this fall. It's a fast track just for labor. And so if you come for the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're going to be just doing labor. It's knocking out a whole bunch of assignments. We're doing a hands-on practice on each other with massage techniques and positioning and all kinds of fun stuff. But that one will get you to the end a lot faster. So typically someone would complete the whole thing, all three programs, within 2 to 3 months,
Okay.
depending on how quickly their people deliver that they're working with. If you're doing the fast track, you could be done that weekend. So it just
Okay.
depends on you know, which method you're taking, which route you're taking, and how much time you're willing to dedicate to it every day. So if you're working on a little bit every day, you're reading your books every day, and you get through everything, in a dedicated time frame, you could be done 2, 3 weeks, you could be done 3, 4 months. But typically we see people finish each program within 2 to 3 weeks each. So that puts them out between the 3 to 4 months, depending on how quickly their families deliver.
Not much time at
Yeah.
all. Um,
No,
I'm just going to throw this in there too. I would encourage everyone, men, women, especially the men who are saying, whatever. If you have your wife and you are planning on having children, or maybe you just had children, at least go to the website, take a look at the information, read about it. I think it's not going to hurt to do that, but it'll be helpful.
hmm
Um, so I would encourage everybody to do that with young families, old families, grandparents, things like that. So, gosh, I want to say thank you again. This was something that I stepped into without knowing anything about. I feel a little bit more comfortable about what a doula does, uh, and the role. I never, I never knew.
That's okay. Well,
So
thank you so, so much for inviting me. I mean, the more people know about doulas and the more that they start to understand that it's not just one way or the highway when it comes to birth. I feel
yeah,
like, a lot of times we don't want to do it that way, but we don't know what what am I trying to say? An alternative. We don't know what an alternative might be. And so being able to help make other people aware of doulas just makes everyone's options open up a little bit more.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, Anne Wallen, thank you very much
Thank you.
for informing all of us.
No
And
problem. It was my honor to be here today. Thank you so much for inviting me.
you're welcome.